Good morning, you guys. Welcome back to Good Morning NFC East. I am here with the one, the only Clay Harbor. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II, filling in for Jeff Kerr. Our main guys holding it down in Glendale, Arizona, covering Super Bowl 57 for CBS Sports and JAKIB Sports. Clay, once again, thank you so much for taking the time out to kick it with me, my man. How are you feeling this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm out here in Phoenix as well,
Okay.
doing some Radio Row stuff today at the Super Bowl. Excited. I'm not going to the game. I wish I was, but I'm just doing a lot of the events and everything. But ready for the game, man. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I agree, man. So, just give me the pulse of the city right now down there in Arizona. What are the ultimate vibes?
It's already fun. I mean, you can already feel the energy. Walking around Radio Row, everybody knows they're in for a treat. You got Andy Reid and the Chiefs versus, Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, there's so many storylines, whether you're going for the two guys up for the MVP award, whether you're going for Andy Reid versus Nick Sirianni, whether you're going for the best offense, the best pass offense versus the best pass defense. Two best teams, best team from the AFC, best team from the NFC. So many storylines, and everybody's excited to really see this game get going because of that. So I'm excited. Patrick Mahomes, can he show that he's more than just a one and done, one Super Bowl after five AFC championships, and then Jalen Hurts, can he win this big game? So it's exciting, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's like you said, there's so many storylines and there's so many things to get into. Really quickly though, before we get into the nitty gritty, are you seeing more Eagles fans down there or more Chiefs fans?
More Eagles fans for sure. Right
Okay.
now, it's more Eagles fans. You knew that though. You knew Philly was going to travel the game, so I wasn't surprised by that.
Definitely. So, you were a tight end in the NFL, and when it comes to that position, I personally believe that position is going to be very vital. It's going to play a key role in this Super Bowl. More so for the Kansas City Chiefs. And, I had to ask you, right, when you think about a guy like Travis Kelce, everything he brings to the table from a route running perspective, his understanding of just zones, understanding and finding the soft spot in the zone, because he was a former quarterback. He just has that extra brain, that extra quarterback part of his brain, acting in concert with that tight end skill set. What makes Travis Kelce so dangerous and unguardable right now?
It's just the blend of size, speed, and intelligence. He's just a smart guy. People don't realize how much of a student of the game he is at the tight end school. I've never been there, but I got friends that go. He teaches. He's a guy that thinks about everything. It's not just a guy who goes out there and plays. He's thinking about everything. He's always, setting up his next route. He's setting up, what he's going to do later in the game. So he's a guy that's just, he's usually a step ahead of defenders. I think the Eagles got a good shot to maybe not hold him to nothing, but I think to see Jake Gardner-Johnson, if he matches up on him, could do a decent job. I think he'd have a good matchup with him. But he's a smart guy, big body that can move, that can catch, and run after catch, and that what makes him so difficult to guard. But I will say this, I think the best two tight ends in the league are in this game.
Really?
That's how I am in Dallas Goedert.
So take me to tight end university, right? What are you seeing from Dallas Goedert and Travis Kelce? Like maybe because again, you played the position, right? And I'm pretend I'm a layman, which I am, but just break down the mentality of that position. Break down the various concepts those tight ends have to master in order to be at the top of their craft. Because again, Travis Kelce, he plays the position differently than a guy like Dallas Goedert. They're both explosive in the pass game, but Dallas Goedert is more of the physical, all-around tight end that he gets involved in a blocking game, and he's not afraid to get into get into the mud with you. Travis Kelce, he's a good downfield blocker, but I never really consider him to be a top-notch blocker at the point of attack. But just take me to tight end university with those guys. What makes those guys so special and elite at their craft?
Yeah, so as far as receiving, there's two coverages, right? You're going to have man or zone, and just say, very layman, and you got to have a feel for both. If you got to be able to tell when it's man, and you got to be able to tell when it's zone. And as far as coverages are concerned, Kelsey's really good about identifying coverages pre-snap and knowing what he has to do and getting to the right spots. Sometimes you'll watch him like, oh, really didn't do anything. He just ran to a spot and got open. That's because he was able to identify, okay, this is zone. This is going to be cover 2, cover 3, whatever zone it is. He knows, and he's just able to get to that spot, turn around, and get the ball. And Pat Mahomes is on the same page and can read that stuff too. He's also able to identify when it's man. And he's got a unique set of skills that makes him hard to guard. He's just got quickness. He's got that shiftiness. He's an actor. He's going to make it look like he's going one direction, he's going the other. And, the defense buys it because he's so good at doing that. So he's just got those skills that are good in man or zone. And then, like you said, Dallas Goedert. I like Goedert because he can block and catch. He's a guy you can use in play action because, with Kelce, you're not going to play action to him that much because a lot of the time you're honestly not going to run the ball to his side. He doesn't need that to get open. But Goedert, you can play action to him because he's a guy you can run behind. And a lot of times in the league, you can't do that with right now. So I think that's two things that really make these two tight ends special, and it separates them from the rest.
So you mentioned in terms of Travis Kelce, maybe the Eagles may throw C.J. Gardner-Johnson down there. Now, C.J. Gardner-Johnson isn't the best tackler. He isn't the biggest body. What are some other unique ways that the Philadelphia Eagles can try to contain Travis Kelce?
Well, you could throw different guys at him. You could throw Kaiser White at him. TJ Edwards, if he's attached, you could try to even chip him. The guy, people do that for tight ends when you're trying to take him out of a play. Just like you chip a defensive end, you can chip a tight end and throw him off his route. So there's a number of things you can do. Different defenders try to make this guy's man in zone. So Kelce's confused. He doesn't know if he's running his route versus man or running it versus zone. And you can just buy him. You could do, a zone with like a 4 box and 1 in basketball. You can do a zone and then match up on Kelce because he is the leading receiver on that team. They don't have Tyreek Hill out there. So you can do a number of different things to confuse him, to lock him up. And I think the Eagles are going to try everything.
Yeah, you brought up the other receivers, right, on the Chiefs. None of them are really world beaters. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster had just over 900 yards on the season, but wasn't really a red zone threat. Most of the touchdowns went to a Travis Kelce or a Jerick McKinnon in the passing game. So Patrick Mahomes really leaned heavily on Travis Kelce. The wide receivers, they essentially got in where they fit in. How do you see the Chiefs wide receivers matching up against the Philadelphia Eagles skill guys on defense? Darius Slay, Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, so on and so forth.
I think it's a great matchup for the Eagles. In this case, obviously, Slay and Bradbury, two of the best in the league. PFF put out a stat yesterday that the Eagles are first in the league when it comes to forced incompletions and interceptions as a unit. That's big right there. The number 1 team in the league at that. And Slay and Bradbury, I mean, look at Bradbury. He's the number 1, giving up a 61 rating against this year. Slay's at like 79. These are two of the guys that are tops in the league, 2 Pro Bowl players. I think they match up with these receivers very well. And, even Avonte Maddox and even Reed Blankenship. I mean, all these guys, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I think it's a great matchup for the Eagles, this defense. And then even if you want to get to the linebacking core, TJ and Kaiser, I think they can guard in the slot after Travis Kelce. Any of the other guys, they play zone as good as any linebackers in the league. They got a really good feel for that. TJ is just such a smart player. He's improved so much in the passing game. He's giving up an 81 rating, one of the top linebackers in the league. And that's funny because that was always a knock on TJ Edwards. He can't cover. He's not quick enough to cover. Guess what? This year he's covering. So all that combined with a pass rush that's 70 sacks this year, 3rd most in NFL history, 4 guys over 11 sacks. To me, that adds up to you're not even have to cover him that long because I don't think Andrew Wiley's going to hold up against Haason Reddick. Call me crazy, but Andrew Wiley's given up 9-10 sacks this year. Haason Reddick has 16.5. That's a recipe for disaster. You can't blitz. You cannot blitz Pat Mahomes. He tears up the blitz. Always has. He always will. The Eagles are going to have to get the pressure from the front 4, and I think they can because they have that dynamite defensive line.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I'm glad you went there because the Eagles' defensive line, in my opinion, has been the story of the season. The ball, their defensive line and offensive line, but more so their defensive line having 70 sacks on the season, breaking a franchise record, and they're still dominating the line of scrimmage in the playoffs. That San Fran game, Haason Reddick completely wrecked that game in the first 6 plays. And then you had Ndamukong Suh knock out the third string or fourth string quarterback, however you want to break it down. But that day he was the second string.
Yeah.
You touched on it already. Just speak on how difficult it is for a quarterback, no matter how good you are, to deal with a pass rush this volatile and athletic and this deep.
Well, it's tough when you got the front four bringing that pressure. A guy that's so smart like Pat Mahomes, he sees the blitz. He knows exactly where it's coming from. He knows where to attack instantaneously. That's why he's so good. You can't blitz him. He knows exactly where to attack when he sees someone blitz. Eagles aren't going to blitz. They don't have to. They can, but they're not going. You can't blitz Pat Mahomes. At least you can't pass blitz. So now when you're getting pressure from that front four, there's no weak links. Nothing's open. There's no hot route because you're only sending forward. You're not blitzing. So that's a way that you know how to beat Tom Brady back in his prime. You got to send pressure with that front four. If you blitz Tom Brady, he was going to beat you. He knew exactly where to go with the ball and go quick. So that's what's going to confuse Pat Mahomes. There's pressure, but there's nobody blitzing, and his ankle. He's got a bum ankle. There's not Tyreek Hill to exploit the defense, the deep ball. Now you're just looking for Kelce over the middle and underneath. So I think these are recipes. This is why I'm picking the Eagles, is because I think they can get that pressure, and not just Haason Reddick. I think Josh Sweat really underrated. And I don't think Orlando Brown's as good as people make him out to be. Javon Hargrave's got a tough matchup with Joe Tooney, yes, but I think Hargraves can still get some pressure there. Fletcher Cox, people forget about him. He had 7 sacks this year. Brandon Graham coming off the bench. I mean, you think about Ndamukong Suh, hasn't been with the team that long, but still an opportunity, still a great player. Robert Quinn still waiting in the wings. So I'm a Chicago Bears guy. He didn't have a great year before he got traded, but he was getting double teamed a lot. I think he's got a chance to even come in and shock some people and get some pressure because he's still got gas in the tank. And he's a guy that wants to be on the stage, wants to win this game, and is going to be jacked up to play this game.
How much freedom does it give a defensive coordinator to be able to only send 4 guys rushing the quarterback? And especially, again, you mentioned it, you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes. He's a guy that's going to carve you up. You blitz him, you send 1 extra guy, you send 5, he's going to manipulate that each and every day of the week. Speak on how much freedom that gives Jonathan Gannon to just only send 4 guys and just pretty much drop back in any coverage that he pleases.
It's a cheat code because usually in this league, you have to, send blitz to get that pressure. With the Eagles, you don't have to because it's D-line. So it's a cheat code. It helps so much. And like you said, you look at the Chiefs game versus the Bengals. The Bengals thought they could blitz Patrick Mahomes because he had his ankle. He comes up with a rating over 110 against the blitz, even with his bum ankle. I mean, This guy, you can't do it. You can't blitz him, even with the ankle. The Jaguars thought they could, too, in the second half. Blitz him. He's getting the ball out. They're scoring. They're getting big gains. So it comes up to that front four. And I think the Eagles have the best front four in the league. So that's why I love this matchup.
I want to get your opinion on this, right? The Chiefs, they don't really have, in my opinion, a dominant running game. Or let's say they don't really have a reliable running game. A lot of teams don't have a dominant run game. But if you can have a reliable run game, that can help your quarterback out that much more. But the Eagles have a dominant running game, a very physical running game. The Chiefs, not so much. Pachenko, for a 7th-round pick, had a pretty good season, if you ask me. But they don't really depend on it too much. And I honestly foresee Patrick Mahomes throwing his ball well over 45, 50 times to win this game.
Yeah.
So how do you think the Chiefs running game can at any point maybe have any success against the Philadelphia Eagles defense? Because I know that the Eagles have a pretty good pass defense, but at times they can be leaky in stopping the run.
Yeah, that's another reason it's a good matchup because the one, if I was going to say the weak link of the Philadelphia Eagles is stopping the run. They haven't been great at it this year. I think they're like 19th or so in the league against stopping the run. But the Chiefs don't have a great run game. Like you said, Pacheco, McKinnon's more of a receiver out the backfield. Pacheco had a good season for a rookie, but overall, that's not their forte. And a lot of their runs are little shovel passes, screens that Patrick Mahomes does. So if they can stop those screens, those gimmick plays, those short passes just past the line of scrimmage, I think that's basically the Chiefs' run game. There's going to be a lot of pass opportunities for Patrick Mahomes. He's going to have to ice that shoulder after this game, and I think he's going to have to ice a lot more after this defensive line comes after him and gets a lot of pressure on him. So excited to see it, but I think that I don't think this run game is going to be a big factor. But Andy Reid watches the tape. He sees that the Eagles don't stop the run well. He's going to try to exploit that. He's going to see if Pacheco and McKinney can run the ball early. Reid's not an idiot. He's one of the best offensive minds in the league, so he's going to test them. He's going to test the Eagles' run game. If they can stop him early, it's going to be a one-dimensional game. That's a very tough dimension when you got Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league, but I think they can stop it.
To your point, the Philadelphia Eagles on the season, they were able to improve to 15th, ranked 15th in the NFL, stopping the run for the season. The last 3 games, only giving up an average of 109 yards, and in their previous game, only gave up 81 yards rushing. So the Eagles' run defense is slowly improving. Since we're on that topic exactly, right, the Eagles made a lot of moves this year, and one of the moves, in my opinion, that stood out the most, that actually took this defense to another level, that took this front seven to another level, was bringing in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. We spoke about Ndamukong Suh earlier in this game, still having a lot of gas in the tank. He has that. He had both of those guys, Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, have Super Bowl experience. Both are Super Bowl champions. Can you expand on what those 2 guys brought to the table that made it easy for guys like Haason Reddick, that made it easy for guys like TJ Edwards, Brandon Graham, so on and so forth?
Well, it's tough when you got guys and you can't double team. That's the thing. If you got one good pass rusher, it's tough because you can chip, you can double team. If you got 2, it makes it hard. If you got 3 or 4 on a line, that makes it almost impossible because no matter what you do, there's going to be somebody getting one-on-ones. When you got guys that can beat one-on-ones and multiple guys can beat one-on-ones, it just opens everything up for everybody. So now if you give all the attention to Haason Reddick, Josh Sweat's going to beat you. If you give all the attention to Haason Reddick and Josh Sweat, Javon Hargrave's going to beat you. If you try to take out all 3 of those guys with chips and running backs, now Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham's coming in, and you got other guys that can beat you in other ways. So that's been huge. Linval Joseph, all these guys, veteran guys, and you just learn techniques from guys like this. When you have smart players and veteran players, it's easy to identify things, to make your calls earlier. Yes, defensive players make calls, and it's just it makes everything run more smoothly, and you know what's happening. And a lot of times, the difference in this league is just being able to identify things. That helps you to get into your pass rush sooner, helps you to be able to get into your run fit sooner if you go against the run. So there's a lot of things that having multiple guys that can play do for you, and it's hard to stop everybody.
Let's flip to the other side of the ball, the Philadelphia Eagles offense. We spoke about the Chiefs' skill position guys, Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, all those guys. I think they had the young kid Houston, but the Philadelphia Eagles now, I think, have the advantage at wide receiver versus the Chiefs DBs. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith versus Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed. I mean, those are 2 young guys. Trent McDuffie is the rookie, but I just think from a size perspective, they don't really match up too well with the Eagles wide receivers, and just from an experience and just a skill set perspective. Can you speak on the advantage the Philadelphia Eagles may have at the wide receiver position going up against that Chiefs defense?
You saw what happened against the Bengals. I mean, I think they're just as good as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. These young rookie cornerbacks gave up over 100 rating when targeted against them. So I think you're going to see that again. I think Devontae Smith shows up in big games. You go back to his rookie year, you go back to his freshman year at Alabama, who caught the game-winning touchdown in the national championship game? Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown can play too. These are guys that played in the SEC, big-time players that can make big-time plays in big games. And there's a reason both of them are 1,000-yard receivers and 2 of the best in the game. I think it's a huge, huge mismatch problem, and they're going to pay extra attention to these receivers, and that leaves Dallas Goedert open over the middle or being guarded by a linebacker, because you're going to have to put a lot of safety help with these cornerbacks over A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So my pick to have a sneaky good game is Dallas Goedert over the middle.
Are there any specific route concepts that you see that the Chiefs defense can be exploited with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that just 4 verticals is the oldest route concept in the book. But here's the thing: once you do 4 verticals, the AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and you don't have safety help over the top with these cornerbacks, it's bad news. So you're going to have to put the safeties over the top. So that leaves the middle of the field open. So somebody's going to come open and win these matchups, these one-on-one matchups, schema matchups. 4 verticals, it's a concept every team runs. You call it up, you call it just go, you call a lot of different things, but 4 verticals, and then you just tag a couple of comebacks on the outside if they're cheating against the verticals. Just some basic concepts. I don't think you need to get too crazy here because you got better players. AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are better than their cornerbacks. Dallas Goedert is better than these linebackers in the pass game. So these concepts are going to really favor the Eagles, and because these matchups do, and I don't think they can guard these guys. And if they really start leaning heavily into the pass game, the Eagles are one of the best rushing teams in the league with that zone read and Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell, Jalen Hurts running the football. That makes things difficult. In the zone read, you have to give a player up to guard the quarterback. That leaves you one player down in the run game trying to tackle Miles Sanders. That's why they've had so much success there.
Yeah, you're right. It is a numbers game, right? You have to account for that quarterback. And you brought him up, Miles Sanders, Kenny Gainwell. I think those guys are due for a pretty productive game, especially Kenny Gainwell. He's the Eagles' third down back, and I'm curious to think. They usually use him again on third down and in their hurry up offense. And the Eagles don't really run too many running back screens. That's not really what they do. They more so throw bubble screens to the receivers, to the tight end, so on and so forth. Do you think it's possible? I know you mentioned Andy Reid's probably going to, do some running back screens to try to loosen up or slow down that pass rush. The Chiefs have a pretty good pass rush as well, all things considered. I think they have about 55 sacks on the season. Do you anticipate Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen maybe drawing up some screenplays for the running backs?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Eagles, they have the Chiefs actually have the third best sacks, the third most sacks in the league. Obviously, the Eagles are number 1. So there's some pass rush. Andy Reid's got some dogs over there. He's got some players, but this offensive line, I don't think you have to worry about the pass rush here. The Eagles' offensive line is so good. It's one of the best offensive line I've ever seen. Obviously, Lane Johnson. I mean, the guy's a brick wall, even with the torn labrum, the hip adductor there. Obviously, you got Mailata. Let's have a great postseason on the other side. Jason Kelce, one of the best centers to ever do it in history. And then Siramalu and Landon Dickerson can play too. There's no weak link. So I think that this offensive line, I trust them going against anybody. I think they've shown that over and over again. Lane Johnson can block Micah Parsons. I mean, this guy can block anybody. So I love the matchups with the Eagles offensive line. But they're a good screen team. Andy Reid is a great screener. I remember in our days in Philly, Andy Reid always saying, we're going to be the best screen team in this league. I don't think he's changed that. He wants to run screens. How can you slow down a big pass rush? You screen him. You screen him. You screen him. He's going to throw a lot of screens against the Eagles. And the Eagles can throw a lot back. But Miles Sanders, if he's in the game, he's not great at catching the football. But, I think it's something they can utilize, especially against this pass rush. But then again, I think this Eagles offensive line is so good, they don't have to worry about it as much as a lot of other teams would.
When you were playing, what was your favorite route to run?
My favorite route to run would have to be
like what was that route that you felt like, oh, I'm gonna eat on this route? Every time you saw it come up on the playbook, you're like, oh yeah, this is the one.
Like middle read, it's either you take the middle and the cover 2, or you basically run like a 10 and in if it's zone. And I thought either way, if it's cover 2, I'm gonna split the middle and go, or if it's zone, I'm good at running that 10 and in. I was good. I had good quickness and could plant and really go in that route. So I love that route, and it was something I always liked to run. And I think the Eagles still use that with Dallas Goedert. Old classic middle read, cover 2 safety too high, he's taking the middle. Zone, he's running a 10 and in. You might see it this week. It's classic Andy Reid concept, but Dallas Goedert, I see him running that route a lot.
Awesome. It makes it that much easier when you have a quarterback that can actually, deliver the ball to you on a regular basis consistently. Yeah, Jalen Hurts is one of those dudes. Jalen Hurts has, let's be honest, Jalen Hurts shocked the world this season. I'm pretty sure a lot of people thought he would improve. I'm pretty sure we all did, but I don't think anyone thought he would make the jump that he did as quickly as he made it. Because the biggest concern was, okay, he's going to improve, but will this organization be patient with his development? Will they be patient with his success? And they didn't have to wait too long. What's been your thoughts on everything you've seen from Jalen Hurts from week 1 up until now, and just speak on like his journey and just what it means to not just make it to the Super Bowl, but to pretty much silence the doubters for the most part.
He's gonna have to write a book at some point, man, and a movie, because this guy was doubted. I remember they brought in all these free agents. They have this great team. You bring in AJ Brown. People still doubting Jalen Hurts. Oh, it doesn't matter. Hurts can't play. And I'll pull up some receipts, man. I remember going to training camp after watching them. I said, people didn't even want to think he was the best quarterback in the NFC East. I remember saying, after seeing Jalen Hurts, there's no doubt in my mind he's the best. Sorry, Dak Prescott. I'm getting murdered by fans for saying that Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the NFC East, and saying that I thought Hurts was playing really well. Because you see the training camp, like, tweeting a lot of these beat writers out here that are, on Hurts's jockstrap come training camp, they were giving him stuff. Oh, he didn't complete these passes. He went, 20 of 30 today, and he threw an interception. We're talking about practice. First thing I saw him, I go, man, this guy is locked in. The guy looks like a tight end. He's so built. You can tell he's putting in the time in the weight room, in the film room. He's getting the ball out quick. He's throwing it to A.J. Brown. He's throwing it to Devontae Smith. And this guy's just improved. But just going from a guy that loses his job in college, goes to Oklahoma, makes the college football playoff there, gets drafted second round, has a, up and down year. And then, people are saying he has to do it this year. If he doesn't do it this year, he's gone. We're drafting a quarterback next year. Pressure on him. He doesn't blink. He keeps going. He's in the MVP discussion. Now he's in the Super Bowl. It's a pretty incredible story. Honestly, you couldn't have scripted this any better for him. And I think he wins the Super Bowl and concludes, this chapter of the book. And I think it's a pretty incredible chapter for what he's been able to overcome.
Why don't you think his intangibles get the credit they deserve? I always say, and look, I haven't played football on any level really, but I've always been a really big fan of it. I've always loved the game. I followed the game as much as I could, and as much as that I can understand. And I lean on guys like you. I lean on guys that have played the game, that cover the game, to provide insight to me and fill in the gaps. But to me, I've always felt like the quarterback position is played 75% from the neck up and 25% from the neck down. And I believe a lot of people don't want to give credit to Jalen Hurts for his 75%. Why do you think that is?
It's weird because he's got intangibles. He's a leader. He's not a guy that's out partying. He's not a guy that you see some of these young quarterbacks. You hear about, like, Trey Lance in the club the day after they lose to the Bears. These videos in a strip club, or like Jalen Hurts being out, or Justin Fields being out. Hurts is a guy that's going to be in the film room studying. This is all he does. This is what he cares about. He wants to play football, and that's it. So he's a guy, it's so impressive what he's able to do and how hard he studies. And he has the intangibles. Obviously, he's got a run game. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen it run in the zone read. But he can throw the ball too. You can see with the year over 100 rating after, last year being at 87, 85, whatever he was at there. He's just improved so much and put himself in the MVP discussion. So it's been incredible, and the players love following because he's such a hard worker. And when a guy is willing to sacrifice everything else for what he does, the team around them follows him.
A couple more questions for you, Clay, before I get you out of here, man. Once again, I appreciate you for locking in with me for as long as you did. Who has the most to gain from a Super Bowl victory, Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes?
I think Patrick Mahomes at this point. Jalen Hurts is such a young guy. He's already, people, just to be here is incredible for him. And Patrick Mahomes, if he loses again, you've been to 5 straight AFC Championship games. You got 1 ring. Like that's tough for him. For his, you're going to start thinking of him as one of those quarterbacks that Aaron Rodgers only won 1 championship. So I think it's tough for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. These two guys, for their whole legacy, it's important that they win this game. I think the Eagles are so young. You got Devontae, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, all 25 and under. I think that these guys are destined to be back here again. And I think they are going to win this game. And I think it's going to be tough for Patrick Mahomes. There's going to be a lot of criticism because he's been there so much and he hasn't been able to win the biggest game.
If the Eagles win this game, which I think they will, you and I both think that, but if they win this game, what specifically went right for them? And if the Chiefs win this game. What specifically had to go right for them?
Eagles win. I think it comes up to the trenches. I think whoever wins a battle of trenches win, and the Eagles typically have the best trenches. They have the deepest dug trenches with the offensive line and their defensive line. I mean, these guys, these big guys up front have been winning games for them and have been setting them apart from the rest. So I think if the Chiefs win, this offensive line was able to handle this Eagles D line. They were able to give Patrick Mahomes time, and Patrick Mahomes carved up the Eagles defense. They win. If the Eagles win, I think this D line was able to get pressure, and then Chiefs weren't able to get any pressure on Jalen. He was able to do what he wanted in the run game and the pass game. So for me, it all starts up front with these big uglies.
So, Clay, final question, man. You said the Eagles are going to win. Who's your Super Bowl MVP? And also, give me your score prediction.
I mean, to me, that's I'll give you the front runner is Jalen Hurts, man, because he's so good. But my under the radar Super Bowl MVP, Haason Reddick, guy that can wreck a game on defense, going against Andrew Wiley. I don't think this guy can guard him. This guy can't block him. So I'm taking Jalen Hurts, the obvious choice. But then under the radar, Haason Reddick, putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. I think he can change the game there. Score 28-24 Birds.
I like that. Clay, thank you so much, man, for waking up early with me, man. I appreciate you so much. We definitely got to do it again, my guy.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Definitely, man. Take care. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Tom.
You guys, that was Clay Harbor, man, former tight end for the Philadelphia Eagles, former tight end for the Chicago Bears. We had a good show, man. We're doing good, man. We're doing good. It's Thursday, Thirsty Thursday. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. I'm so excited to have this opportunity with JAKIB Sports to be able to kick it with you guys and kick it with guys like Clay Harbor, kick it with guys like Mark Farzetta, man. And, Jeff, listen, man, I don't want to step on your toes, man. I might be coming for that #1 spot, Jeff. but man, we're going to take a short break, you guys. I appreciate you so much. Smash that like button. Continue to stay locked in. We'll